Hey family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. Well, family, we're back again. We're going to be talking about Marriage at First Sight, Season 10, Episode 8. Well, family, let me first start off by saying when I was watching this episode, it kind of made me feel a little bad, because I kind of thought about how this show, uh, perhaps like maybe some other ones, but this one in particular, it seems to be an indictment on our culture in a sense. And the crime, if I had to just list one, that crime would be we just don't seem to know how to take care of one another and love one another. And that's kind of seeded all throughout this particular episode. So I don't want to be a negative Nelly or anything like that, but that's kind of the overall takeaway that I seem to be getting every time I watch these episodes. Um, there just doesn't seem to be any way I can see where people have learned how to connect beyond the sexual. They just can't find that spiritual and emotional dimension that maintains a relationship, that holds it for life. They just don't seem to have that devotion and that commitment anymore. Well, anyway, let's go. Let's move on. Let's talk about Mika and Mike. Well, Mika and Mike, I really don't have a lot of negative things one way or the other that I saw this particular episode and this week. What I saw this time was that they seem to be in a pretty good space. And I noticed that when they had their friends and families over, they were really, really enjoying one another. And I think the only thing that still is somewhat of an issue with Mike is Mike has this image of perfection. And, I kind of like the fact that Mike is a devoted, committed type of guy. And I really have no qualms with him. I think what it is that Mike is one of those guys that, he grew up a certain way and um, he has this sense of duty and obligation. So seems to be a righteous brother. Um, I mean, I'm going to kind of hold that mindset. I'm going to trust that till I see differently. And I hope that they can get beyond some of the little problems that I've been seeing. But the takeaway I got from those guys is that at least that they're starting to wear their rings now. And I give that to Mika. Mika was able to formulate a pretty logical argument for why they need to be wearing their rings. It's a symbol of their commitment. It's a symbol of their devotion. And so for him to take it off every time he gets into his feelings, and only because he's doing that because he feels like a failure, that's a reason, but that's not an excuse. All all relationships deal with issues, deal with real problems, and you need to expect that. You need to plan for that. You don't just throw away the baby with the bathwater just because you're experiencing some problems. That's number one. Number two takeaway I got is that they're communicating a whole lot better than they were in the beginning. And number three, I noticed that they're starting to get the concept, at least it looks that way to me, that they're starting to grasp the concept of partnership. So that's what I got from those two individuals. Now let's take a look at Jessica and Austin. I'm going to go ahead and give Austin some man points. The reason is because, Austin, he went in, Austin had some common sense. He said, well, look, my wife works some long hours. And, you know, what he did was he made dinner. He made the bed, something he didn't do growing up. He made dinner. He made the bed. He cleaned the kitchen. He was there at the door meeting her. And I could tell she really appreciated that. I also could tell that, when they got their friends together, they really enjoyed one another's friends. And I didn't necessarily care for the banter back and forth about the sexual questions. I really think that's kind of over the top. And I just think that's one of those areas of protocol that young people don't understand. Uh, I don't talk about my intimate areas with my wife, with anyone. I don't do that. And for young people, they don't really understand boundaries. And so I kind of like the fact that he wouldn't give the brother a whole lot of information. I think I'm thinking about Derek. I think that happened with Derek and Katie, but that's really the situation that I really liked about Austin. Austin really is acting more like an adult male. But I will say this was kind of a shocker to me because it kind of took me by surprise. It was almost like a bombshell. You know, I, I had a I had a perception about Jessica, and again, let me say this before I make my point. She's not really wrong. This is what she believes. And I just don't think it's going to pay benefits if she decides she want to go with this. But anyway, she made to me a remark to the pastor and as well as the women that she was not satisfied with what her man was earning and what he was doing. And I'm almost positive that has to do with the fact that if she wants to have a child down the road, she automatically assumes, she has concluded that without her additional income, she's not going to be able to come home and be home with her child. Now, that could be due to the fact maybe her sister's home, with her twin sister might be home with her child, and her husband makes enough money. But she doesn't realize that she can be home. Doesn't matter if, as long as he has a good job, as long as he's making decent money, which if he's in DC, I'm sure he's making decent money. He obviously is not making the money she's making. So she has a irrational fear that she hasn't really had a conversation with him. And if she did, maybe he didn't know how he can make all that happen, where she can stay home with the child while he works until she's ready to go back to work. And that's a real fear. I get that. And like that's why I said she's not wrong. I'm just saying that if that's what she believes, you know, that could be a problem down the road. If that is an inconvenient core value that kind of fell through the cracks, that's going to be a problem for those two. Especially if she holds this concept and philosophy of what I call an egalitarian philosophy, where she's looking for equal outcome. I'm not sure that's where she is. She doesn't give any of those signs. I think it's more or less she's looking at the future and she's wanting to have a child because remember, she's a twin. Her sister has a child. She's wanting to have a child ASAP and he's not making that money. So she's already tripping. She wants a baby, okay? And he might not be able to allow her to have a baby while she stays home with that child. That's the problem. But they can have it, but they have to plan for it. They just can't do it like that. It can be done. I know. I've done it. I did it 3 times. I know you have to plan. But people don't like to plan. But if she's not willing to do that, or she's not open to that, and if that is really where she stands, she really does have that egalitarian mindset, every outcome has to be the same, I think she might end up throwing away a good brother. All right, Katie and Derek. Now, Katie and Derek, oh my God. Derek, after he got a chance to talk to his dad, and his dad, in my view, gave him some excellent information, excellent advice. Uh, you know, I'm starting to believe that Derek's in Never Never Land, you know, for a reason. I think most of it is because his parents divorced. And I think he felt a certain way, obviously, like any child would, that love is not something that you can rely upon. And so it's got to be some superhuman um, adhesive feeling that won't go away once you find the person. You know, he actually believes there is a soulmate out there, that if he finds that soulmate, his relationship won't end up like his dad's relationship. Now, that's based upon fear. That's based upon scarcity. Now, if he's going to base his relationship based upon the experiences of his parents, and he doesn't, as of course it probably happened when he was a child, possibly, I don't know. He doesn't know their dynamic. He doesn't know what was going on in their relationship. But if he's going to base his understanding of love based upon that negative experience, based upon Never Never Land, based upon Prince Charming and Disneyland, he is going to be sadly mistaken. Now, when they brought their friends over, obviously they were having a good time. Now, I do recall they were the ones that kept throwing sex up. Again, everything is sex with these two clowns. Everything is sex, okay? Now, the problem is that when he made that statement back in the day that he could not see himself falling in love with anyone according to his version of love, the fantasy version, for 6 months to a year, when I looked at Katie's face, that put her in another dimension because now she's working on a timeline. She's committed to a timeline now. If he doesn't come through and falls in love with her within 6 to 8 weeks, then their relationship is over. But what she needs to understand is she has to learn how to grasp the reality. She doesn't have a love marriage situation or a love marriage relationship. She has an American version arranged marriage. They are two different beasts. Absolutely, totally two different animals with totally two different sets of rules. You can't take the rules of a love marriage and try to bring them over to an arranged marriage and think you're going to get the same benefits because the expectations are different. In an arranged marriage, expectations are low because what you're doing is you're putting the marriage first and love comes second. You're building on the core values. You're learning one another. You're trying to get as much information as you can with the other. Sex is not that important because it's going to come. It's just part of the package. But if you have an American style love marriage, sex is everything. Everything is hot, 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 hot. Then as time goes on, it's get colder and colder and colder. In an arranged marriage, everything starts out cool, but as the relationship goes further with time, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter because now the love is starting to get bigger and bigger. They expect the love to grow. In the marriage that they're talking about, they think love is supposed to be instant and it's going to remain instant. The other way, love grows over time. The way they have it, love is instant, it stays that way, and it doesn't change because you can tell just by the way they're talking. Now, that's a problem. So, Katie now is operating from a situation where she's operating on the fear of missing out, okay? And she's disoriented, and I don't really see how he's going to be able to emotionally reset her. I don't see it because she is having such a difficult time now trying to determine where her purpose and where she fits in. You know, it's sad, but that's where it is with these two. All right. Now that's Katie and Derek. Now you have my good friend Taylor and Brandon. Taylor and Brandon. All right. Brandon is still being the disoriented, emotionally unstabilizing factor in that relationship. Brandon is still having this, I guess I would say, a shutdown behavior. He's also has this one word communication style that's to me very irritating, unnerving, and unsettling. And so when you're talking to someone that's trying to get close to you, that's trying to create a sense of intimacy, and you're shutting down emotionally, you're giving these one word answers, then that is very, very that's very, very unnerving, and it's annoying. And so what's actually happening is she's starting to lose respect for this brother. She's really starting, because even when they had the family over and all that, and everybody was getting with him, and she defended him and everything, and Auntie jumped in and she claimed that he's never had any of these problems going in. I kind of think she was covering for him. I don't know if this brother, like I said before, I don't know if he's on the spectrum. I don't know if he's autistic or has Asperger's, or he's got some other issue like he's bipolar. I don't know what his issues are. I don't know if he's dealing with PTSD. I don't know what it is. He's got some problems. That's all I can tell you. Because nobody operates that way, where he gets in relationships and they all fail. They all fail. But he's supposed to be a good guy. Right? So at the end of the day, I think that when he made that statement after Taylor was trying to get the relationship on an even keel, and she was trying to divulge as much information as she can because she was disoriented still. He hadn't reset her emotionally. He doesn't know how to do it, first of all. And because his, like I said, his style doesn't, his attachment style doesn't scream, baby, I love you. Baby, I want our relationship to be as intimate as we can get it. I want to be as close to you. I want to do whatever I can do to take care of you in such a way that is going to make our relationship as lasting as we can. He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't know how to go there. So what does he say? He goes to his default. His default is victim. He could act out. He could get passive aggressive. He could get loud. But in this case, what he says in the kitchen, he says, I'm willing to follow your lead. So, of course, that didn't go over well with her when he said, I'm willing to follow your lead. But what was funny to me is when he said that, I started thinking about the dog. The dog kind of sniffed out that, okay, so you're going to follow her lead? Well, since you're going to follow her lead, then you might as well follow my lead. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on your leg and I'm going to start dominating you, and you're going to be following me now. Now, see, even the dog can sniff out the fact that he's not a leader. He's not a pack leader. So even the dog can sense that. So I kind of think if the dog can sense it, and he's already doing what canines do to take or to create dominance, I know she know it. All right, let's go on with Mindy and Zach, and we call it a day. I personally don't believe at this point that Zach is really into her. It's not really into her. I kind of think he's just trying to let her down easy. He's trying to do everything because he didn't move in. He's not going to move in. I don't know what his motives were. I think the thing that's bothering most people that's watching the show is that, he doesn't really seem to be interested in her friends, and he doesn't care one way or another. Even though, they did do some things. They kicked, as you young folks would say, they kind of hung out, had a good time, but, he could take or leave it. And so people are questioning his motives, and I get it. I understand it. But with her, Mindy, she's trying to, take the high road. But I think she got caught too. I agree with her. I don't really believe she had sexual intercourse with the man, because I don't think he wanted to make a bad situation worse. So, but I think emotionally she was so sexually charged by this man. She's so into him that when she did get caught in that regard, I think that she lost the most attractive thing about her, and that was her confidence, her self-confidence, which I affectionately call she lost her mojo, which is what women do when they get caught, and often women will lay down with a man, and as soon as they lay down with a man, they lose all leverage and they lose their mojo. Once they lose their mojo, it is a wrap. That relationship is DOA. All right. most of the time. Because, once a woman loses her mojo, then she stopped taking care of herself. When she stops taking care of herself, a man, he won't take care of her. Then if she stops taking care of herself, she stops being who she really is. She starts either being the clingy girl or the overly agreeable girl or the scared or the bitter girl. That's not who she is. So he doesn't see her anymore. He sees caricatures of her. And so, of course, he doesn't want anything to do with that girl or those girls. So he distances himself emotionally. She stopped engaging in her passions. So he's not inspired anymore by her passions. So those are all the things that most women do once they got in a relationship. And like I said, it's not always them sleeping with the guy. Sometimes it's them desiring to sleep with the guy. They could be so sexually attracted to the guy. Boom, they just lose their self-confidence and they lose those three things. And once they lose those three things, if the guy turns out to be a butt, he takes full advantage of them. He uses them and abuses them. And that's the end of that. And that's the way it typically rolls. So I don't see a whole lot happening with Zach and Mindy because he's just not into her. And besides, Mindy, she's been caught, so she has no mojo. So that situation is a done deal. So even though they did everything they thought she done everything she thinks she needs to do, I'm looking forward to next week because it looks like it's gonna be quite an episode. But that's my time. I thank you for yours. I catch you on the other side. God bless you.